All right, segment two. If you're on the Twitter, give us a follow. You know this. You know the drill by now. All_Sooners. You can find me at John E. Hoover. Follow there for basically everything. If you want to keep up with basketball and softball, you're going to need to follow Ryan at _Ryan Chapman, and you can find Ross. He's covering the NFL for us and some basketball at Ross Lovelace, and of course Randall, who is the I'm going to go back to my original nickname for you, Camp Randall. He's been flying around to all the All-American camps the last few days, one in Orlando, one in San Antonio, where we just were for a bowl game. He's flying across the Gulf of Mexico, basically, is what he's doing. He's living in the air. Follow Randall at Randall Sweet 5 for all the latest recruiting news because he's got it all. The website is allsooners.com. We are a Fan Nation affiliate, part of the Sports Illustrated Network, and you can bet your butt that that's a Rain Man original. That All Sooners is free, no signups, no emails, no passwords, no credit cards needed. It's all free at All Sooners. Randall, tell me you know who Rain Man is.
Is that a callback to the restaurant that we ate at in Cincinnati?
Yes. Nice job.
I appreciate it.
We ate at Pompilio's restaurant where Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman ate and dropped toothpicks on the floor and had pancakes.
And it was some of the best Italian food I've ever had.
Yeah.
Great.
It's not just a curiosity that they've hung posters and photos of the cast and crew on the wall. It's really good Italian food. Pompilio's, and it's actually in Kentucky, across the river from downtown Cincinnati. So Cincinnati. Anyway, forget Cincinnati. You're in San Antonio, where you were at the Alamo Bowl, but then you spent 3 days in Orlando for the Under Armour All-American game. Now you're back in San Antonio for the All-American Bowl in San Antonio. Man, what's standing out to you so far? Not just the guys, not just David Stone and Daniel Akumi and those guys, but just about your trips and your travels and the fact that Southwest lost one of your bags.
Well, to update on the lost bag, thanks that Southwest was able to deliver it at 1 a.m. last night. I got the call up to my hotel room that the bag was here. So awesome. All my stuff was in it. Fortunately, nothing was taken out. Still got the tripod, which I know is of great concern to all Sooners. So everything was all good in there. But I think it's been really fun to see just these kids from all over the country, how in a few days they can come together and really just be friends. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of these guys have met each other multiple times before on, like you said, the camp circuit, 7-on-7. I mean, various recruiting events, things like that. But it is really cool still to see kids who, aren't with each other all the time, kind of get to hang out and kind of enjoy really just vacation, but also football practice at the same time. It's really cool. It seems like all the kids in Orlando really enjoyed it. They get to stay at the Disney Resort there, which was really cool. Practice was at the ESPN Wide World of Sports complex, which that was awesome to get to see. And then here in San Antonio, those guys getting to stay at a nice hotel out here. Again, getting to see kind of the camaraderie, getting to see them really grow together, especially guys who are going to be playing against each other in college, kind of get to, to mingle, get to know each other. It's a really cool aspect. And I even talked to some of the guys about that, and it's something that they enjoy too.
All right. So then let's start in Orlando. You, the stupid Alamo Bowl, and I say that because it kicked off at almost 8:30. The game itself got done at almost midnight. We left the arena, we left the stadium at about 2:30 in the morning, and Ryan and I were able to get a shuttle back to the hotel. But you bailed out early because you had a flight to catch to Orlando at like 5 a.m. the next day. You've been on the go since you arrived in San Antonio on the 26th of December, 2023. So it's been a grind for you. So let's start in Orlando. You landed on the ground. You immediately got to see guys like David Stone, Daniel Akumi, Devon Mitchell, Jaden Hardy, and Eugene Brooks. 5 Sooner All-Americans in that game down in Orlando at the Under Armour game.
Yeah, and it was really, good to see them kind of compete against a bunch of guys like that. I mean, really, you go from top to bottom. It was, getting to talk to them, kind of learn what they were all about, and again, kind of getting to see them interact with a bunch of other guys. I mean, I know everyone has probably seen the clips of David Stone on Twitter, where he's just kind of manhandling some other big time offensive linemen. I think that in the sports media world, some other podcasts that cover other teams. I don't know names or anything like that, but I'd heard people say that they had some concerns about Stone's work ethic, and after seeing him in person, I don't think that that's true whatsoever. This is a guy who loved to get every rep he could. He was pounding his chest. He was sprinting back to the front of the line. He was, trying to get every single rep he could. He wanted to be in there. He wanted to be practicing. He wanted to be competing, and he was fired up while he was doing it also. So aside from him, physically dominating, being a really skilled player, playing multiple positions along the defensive line, some of those things like that, just seeing how hungry he was to get better, how well he took the coaching, how fired up he was, how engaged he was. That was all really refreshing, and it really cleared. I mean, not that I'd ever seen him to have those concerns, but concerns you hear about online, it really cleared up anything like that. Again, from an actual football standpoint on the field, I think you saw all the skills that make someone a 5-star prospect. I mean, 6'4", 280 pounds. He lined up as a stand-up defensive end. He also lined up as an interior pass rusher. He won both ways. As a stand-up defensive end, he went against 6'8", 365-pound tackle who's committed to Oregon from, I think he's from Alabama, from the state of Alabama, committed to Oregon, just a massive, massive guy. And David Stone was able to use a quick move to get inside of him, kind of use a swim move by him, got his helmet taken off and still got to the dummy. That kind of represented that quarterback there. Against some of the interior offensive linemen, he used quick hands, power, strength to kind of get his hands into the lineman's chest, push that guy straight back into, again, what the quarterback would be. And that was some reps against actually a Texas commit at the center position. So, again, whether it was working on guards, centers, tackles, he really showed that he's got the athletic ability to kind of dominate all of those positions. And again, he showed why he's a 5-star prospect. Everything you'd expect to see from a guy who's rated that high, you saw it. And I know that might seem like a kind of a baseline, but there were guys there who were rated that highly that you didn't necessarily see all those skills from. And so to go out there and, like I said, to prove the work ethic, even whenever I was talking to him, he told me, I wouldn't be here if I didn't love football. I told coach, put me in. I want all the reps. I want to do this. And so I think I think he's going to be a guy that Sooner fans really like. I think the coaching, when he gets to OU, they're going to really embrace him for that same mentality. And I think that's going to, potentially help him get on the field early, even though OU's got some of those defensive linemen coming back up front.
What'd you think of Daniel Akumi? His introduction, his first real, he's been over here for camps and stuff like that, showcases. But in terms of a game and a week's practice and getting instruction from U.S. coaches, American coaches on the regular like he did this week, it sounded like he had a really good week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think before I even saw him actually take reps, I told you physically he passes the test. I mean, as a guy who most of us American media guys had never seen in person before, you're kind of eager to get your eyes on him, see if he looks like the rest of these offensive linemen, and he absolutely looked like he belonged. Big shoulders, long arms, huge hands. Again, built really well, tall, exactly what you'd expect for an offensive lineman who's playing at a place like Oklahoma. He worked at guard mostly, but he was really, I was really impressed with how strong he played. There were some guys who tried to just bull rush him straight back into that tackling dummy, what the quarterback would be, and he was able to drop his hips to anchor, to stick his feet in the ground and fight back, where he wasn't getting pushed around by some of those guys. He didn't win every single rep, but again, you wouldn't expect a guy who's as raw as he is to just dominate every single one of these guys. I mean, these are 4 or 5-star prospects that he's going against. And so, of course, he lost a couple reps, but on the reps that he won, I think you really saw where his potential is. I think you really saw that he could be a really dominant player on the offensive line. Again, there's 4 or 5-star guys bull rushing him, trying to take their power and use it straight on him. And I think he showed that he's got a lot of power. He's got a lot of strength in the lower half to be able to anchor down and not let those guys push him back, kind of move those guys out of the way. I think that once he's able to get to OU, learn from Bill Bedenbaugh. I mean, again, he even said it. This is a guy who's only been playing football for a year and 9 months. And so, I mean, think about if I told you that there is a kid in Dallas, Texas, who's been playing football for less than 2 years and he's coming to Oklahoma. It'd sound crazy, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, when you take everything into consideration and you look at what he's already done, Again, at a camp like this, I think it really shows that the potential's through the roof. There, to win on some of those reps, it shows that you're not starting from square one. He's not a complete project. While there's a lot of work to be done, you're starting from a pretty good base, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Dibs on the nickname, which I gave him last summer, England Dan. You
Yeah.
guys that are old like me know England Dan and John Ford Coley. So a singing group from the 70s. They had beards and long hair, and they sang yacht rock music. So check it out. England Dan is my nickname for Daniel Akumi because he's from England. The thing I like about him most, Randall, is that he was out there after hours, after the team has gone into the bus, to the showers, to the locker room, whatever it is. He's out there by himself working on individual technique, and this was not a photo op. I've seen this before, not from him, but from another guy when I was there last year. Guys that get out there and they're like, okay, here's what I was working on. Here's the skill I want to perfect. Here's what I was missing. Here's what coach told me to do. I'm going to go ahead and get some of that in right now. And he was working on his craft. It was impressive.
Yeah, and like you said, when I posted that video, some people in the comments said, well, is this just a photo opportunity? No. We all showed up to take photos because we saw him doing that. But this is a guy, I saw him talking to the coaches after practice, kind of working on some of those steps, working on some of that. And even in practice, when he would make a mistake, the coach would pull him aside and kind of help him correct it. You'd see on the next rep, he fixed it immediately. He took the coaching really well. And I think that's what is really the most encouraging because, a guy like Bill Bedenbaugh is going to, he knows what to teach these kids. I mean, he's obviously done it with tons of guys. That's kind of Bill Bedenbaugh's track record is developing these guys into NFL draft prospects. And so I think the way that you saw Akumi take some of that coaching, kind of quickly fix and correct his mistakes, that's got to encourage you when he's going to an offensive line coach with a track record like Bill Bedenbaugh. And again, with the physical traits he has, he's starting from a good position.
Yeah. And speaking of offensive line, Eugene Brooks had apparently, again, I wasn't there, but I'm relying on your expertise, your evaluations. Apparently he had a hell of a week also. I'll say this real quick. I'll interject this. When I was there last year, OU had 7 guys that were All-Americans at that game. We left the week saying Caden Green, probably the best offensive lineman here, played left tackle, then played right tackle, then played left guard. Caden Green was the best at his position. Peyton Bowen, super smart. Didn't have much to do because they don't do a lot. They don't ask a lot of the safeties. They just kind of give them the game plan and let them react and stuff like that. Peyton Bowen was amazing. You could tell his intelligence. He was arguably the best safety at this thing last year. Who am I leaving out? Obviously, Jackson Arnold walked away from that thing as the best quarterback. Consensus, not just me sitting here saying, I love Jackson Arnold. No, it's everybody giving their assessment is Jackson Arnold is the next. And that's why they call it Under Armour next. Jackson Arnold is the next great quarterback come out of this thing. And he was. He looks like he's going to be. And then PJ Adebawore, when he gets done at the Under Armour last year, you're walking out of there and you're saying, best defensive end I saw, PJ Adebawore, best offensive lineman, best quarterback. So I set all that up for you to express Eugene Brooks had a hellacious week by all accounts.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of similar to what you're saying. I mean, David Stone was one of the most impressive defensive linemen I saw. There's a couple other guys that I could mention that are going to other schools that were also really impressive on the defensive line. But I think from what I saw out of the offensive line, I think Eugene Brooks was easily the most impressive guy that I saw personally. And I mean, again, I talked about an anchor with Daniel Akumi. Well, Eugene Brooks has even better anchor. I mean, right now, again, he's played more football, so I'm not trying to diss Daniel or anything like that. But he's a guy who would not get pushed back. Once he put his feet in the ground, there was not a guy who was going to push him backwards into that tackling dummy. He was extremely physical. He showed that nastiness that you really want from offensive linemen, where he's getting his hands up there, he's pushing guys, he's not making it easy on them. And again, I don't think I saw him lose a rep at all week. And again, these defensive linemen that he's going against, these are high 4-star, these are 5-star guys. These are guys that are committed to schools like Texas A&M, like other places that OU is going to play in the SEC. These are guys that OU offered, that OU wanted. And he's out there. I don't think he lost a rep. Like I said, I don't think he lost a rep to anyone. He was able to when he got his hands into a guy's chest, it was over for that person. He's so strong, which again, upper and lower half, you could really tell the strength. It was like a brick wall, really. I mean, he was not moving once he got his feet in the ground, once he got his lower half dropped, anchored down into the ground, once he got his hands his arms locked out. There was not anyone that was going to push him back. And I think that once he's able to get in working with some Jerry Schmidt and Bill Bedenbaugh, I think that Eugene Brooks could be a special, special player. I mean, I think that again, not like player comp, like playing style wise, but I think he could be like a Caden Green in the way that if OU is really thin at guard this year again, he could get in and make some starts as a true freshman. Again, I'm not saying he plays like Caden Green. That's not what I'm saying at all. But just kind of role wise, I think that he's that talented after seeing him here. And he's not. I will say he's not the tallest guy in the world, but that doesn't matter when he's on the interior. He's really strong, anchors really well, and he beat taller guys all week.
At tight end, you've got Devon Mitchell, who is younger than everybody out there, but he's also big, tall, extremely athletic, physical, talented with the football. What was his week like?
Yeah, so it was interesting. He was playing for Coach Lorna Montgomery from Bixby High School in the Tulsa area, so that was pretty cool to see. But they didn't actually throw their tight ends the ball that much in any of the practice reps that I saw, and they actually didn't run in one-on-ones against defensive backs. So I really would have liked to see him run some of that stuff. The tight ends more did their own drills, but again, I think even from that you could see how quick, how agile, how nimble on his feet he is, which for a kid who's 16, 17 years old, he's supposed to be a junior in high school, that's 245 pounds, that's 6'5", you really wouldn't expect him to be so quick, so agile. I saw him release off the line, and I was blown away. It was the first time I'd seen him in person. I was blown away by how quick off the line his release was. There's usually something that you talk about out of a receiver, right? And so I think for a guy, again, seeing that out of a guy who's supposed to be a junior in high school at 6'5", 245 pounds, it's really impressive. I think one of the best catches I saw him make all week was he was running what looked like an out route over the shoulder, cradled it really well, got stepped on the defensive back's toes and was able to quickly spurt out. And when he made the catch, one of the defensive backs that was standing on the sideline right next to me looked at the coach, and the coach told him, he said, "Yeah, that kid, he's a 2025." And all the defensive backs were shocked to learn that someone that big, that athletic, that skilled already was one of the youngest guys, if not the youngest guy in attendance. I don't know if there was any other guys who reclassified, but I know that Devon's a lot younger than everyone else there. And still, you can tell that he's very physically gifted. I mean, he's huge. I think that, again, I sound like a broken record, but once these guys can get in and work with Jerry Schmidt, and they're kind of able to, rework their bodies from high school and stuff like that, I think that a lot of these guys are going to be even better than we saw here at the Under Armour camp. I think Devon Mitchell, again, once he's able to get into some of that strength and conditioning, get even bigger, get even faster, I think that that's going to be a guy who definitely will play early in his career, just because you don't see guys that are that physically gifted with the blend of athleticism, the size, the speed, like Devon Mitchell. And again, his hands are really good. I didn't really see him drop anything. They just didn't really throw him the ball that much. Mm-hmm. But I think athletically, you saw everything that you want to see out of a guy like that.
And then we'll wrap up Orlando with Jaden Hardy, defensive back, cornerback, 5'11", 165 out of Louisville, Texas. Not an imposing frame, of course, at 5'11", 165, but comes with his dad played in the NFL for several years, played for the Cowboys for a little while. He's got some bloodlines. What was his week like in Orlando?
Yeah, and so in the interview I did with him, I asked him, I was like, what's your best skill? What are you best at? And he said his IQ, his leadership, kind of those qualities, which seems to kind of be a real theme amongst the safeties that Brent Venables and company have been recruiting. If you ask Michael Patterson McDonald, I think he would tell you that the same skills are kind of his strength too. And so I think that's something that Brent Venables, Brandon Hall look for in their safeties. I mean, if you go back and even look at when the Patriots were winning their Super Bowls, that was something that Bill Belichick always talked about. He really loved having smart safeties who are good leaders. And so I think that Jaden Hardy, while he told me that himself, and then you could see it out there on the field, after every rep, whether he won or he lost, he was going over to the sideline. He was listening to the coaching. He was really engaged. He wasn't one of those guys, he's listening through his ear hole. He's, eyes locked into the coach. He's paying attention to what the guy's saying, which you really like to see, especially because some of these guys who are, big time recruits at their high school, they come and they don't want to hear that. They already think that they're some hot shot. And there were guys like that in Orlando, but Jaden Hardy definitely wasn't one of them. He listened to coaching. He was a guy who really seemed to get along with everyone on his team. He again, the leadership qualities are evident there with Jaden Hardy. And They had him kind of playing press man coverage in a lot of one-on-one drills against the fastest receivers there, which is not necessarily his skill set. There's a reason he's playing safety, not corner. But when he did kind of get to play more of that safety role, I think you saw again his IQ kind of play out. He can see the field, he can make those reads and stuff like that. So in the team drills, he looked a lot better. The one-on-one drills again wasn't really playing to his skill set, but there were a few good reps in those one-on-ones where he showed he's fearless. He's not scared to go up and put his hands on those guys in press coverage. So even if it's not right now what he's best at, it's something that he had no problem going down and trying, and he still was able to win some reps against some really, really talented receivers.
Good stuff, man. A quick reminder, if you like the AllSooners podcast, drop us a nice rating. 5 stars is always helpful. Share us on social media. That gets the word out and helps the podcast grow. And if you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, and leave us a comment. And if you want to advertise with the AllSooners podcast, just send me an email, allsoonersi@gmail.com. allsoonersi@gmail.com. All right, Randall, you're in, where are you? San Antonio now. So you're there for the you're there for the All-American Bowl is what it's called now. It's not the U.S. Army because that one moved to Frisco, Texas. And so the one in San Antonio is just called the All-American Bowl now. I think it's sponsored by Adidas.
I think so. I believe that's what I saw.
Anyways, sponsorships aside, sorry, Adidas. I wore one of your shirts yesterday, and I bought a new coat when I was in San Antonio.
Yep.
An Adidas 3-stripe coat. It's really nice. Thank you. Nice. Anyway, we move on. You're there to cover 4 All-Americans, but only 2 of them showed up. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's from what I was hearing, it sounds like Nigel Smith may not be allowed to participate because he went through bowl prep with OU. So unfortunate we won't be able to see him, but that's a guy that
you choose one or the other, basically.
Right.
If you're a high school All-American that wants to go enroll early and starts bowl practice, you get to do that, or you get to be an All-American and participate, practice, and play in the game at the All-American game. So it's one of those 2 things. You apparently have to choose.
I think many OU fans would be happy that Nigel Smith chose to practice with the team. That's a guy who's got a really bright future with OU. Again, the guy who can challenge for playing time early. So I don't think that he's going to be upset about his decision. Taylor Tatum, the other guy who's supposed to be here, from what we were told, sounds like he's going to kind of save his body for baseball season, high school baseball season. He's a senior at Longview, Texas. Again, he's going to play baseball and football at OU, so wanted to get that final baseball season at Longview High School in. Good for Taylor Tatum, so won't get to see him here either. But the 2 guys we will get to see, both on the East roster, James Nesta from North Carolina, linebacker who's heading to OU, and Zion Raggins, wide receiver from Georgia, who I believe was your under-the-radar pick in this class, wasn't he?
I think so, yeah. Speedy.
Yeah. Yes, and I'm here to report all the speed is real. He is extreme. We didn't really get to see him run vertical routes today. They were kind of just doing some walkthroughs. They weren't even in pads really, but I think just in the motions that he was running, where they're running him across the formation, the routes he was running, you can see, you can just tell that speed, that elite quickness, it's all there. He's a really small, slight of frame guy, so he will probably have to add some weight just to, deal with some of the bigger defensive backs, kind of take on some of those hits that he's going to have to see in the SEC. But, again, the speed, the quickness is elite. You can't teach stuff like that. This is like nearly Brennan Thompson level speed and quickness. So, you can't really have enough of those guys on your roster. The way he changes direction is insane. It's so quick. He stops on a dime. That's going to be make him really elusive after the catch. Again, didn't get to see them in pads today, but I think that when we do, it's going to be a guy that's really, really hard to tackle. We didn't actually get to talk to Zion today, which we would have liked to. We're going to do that tomorrow. But I think that he's a guy who, after seeing him here today, I think his skill set really, really lends itself to special teams early on in his career. While he's not able to get on the field as a receiver, just because that receiver room is kind of deep, he's a younger guy. I think again, that speed, that change of direction, that elite quickness, that's really going to be helpful as a kick, punt returner, whatever it may be. I can't, if tomorrow I will talk to him about that. Check it out on allsooners.com. Again, tomorrow we'll talk to him more about special teams and things like that. And James Nesta, he was working with the second team defense today, so we didn't necessarily get to see him as much. But he really looks like what you'd expect. He needs to add some weight before he gets major snaps at the next level. I think he's probably about 210 pounds right now. But again, he's tall, he's long, a guy who, again, listens to the coaching really well. And well, we didn't get to see the physicality today in practice because they weren't wearing pads. He was where he needed to be when they were doing run drills. He was filling gaps well. He was able to run right next to the running back on a wheel route in coverage. So all the basic things that you'd expect a Brent Venables linebacker to kind of know how to do, to be good at, those were there. Another guy who's actually going to play baseball and football at OU, and James Nesta. And so we'll get to talk to him more about that tomorrow as well.
Sounds good. There'll be there was a little bit of a snafu with the media access today, and the guys weren't made available as Randall referred to. But tomorrow there will be interviews. There will be. He said he's going to camp out outside the locker room. Camp Randall camping out outside the locker room. Can't wait. Let's switch gears and talk about and we'll have more for you at allsooners.com as Randall delivers the goods throughout the rest of the week. I think they play on the 6th, so looking forward to the rest of your reports there.
Yeah, I was just going to say I do have the highlights from practice today. Again, didn't do much hitting, but if you want to kind of see that Zion Ragon's speed and quickness that I'm talking about, definitely go check out the highlight reel. You'll see what I mean. He's a guy who seems like a really fun-loving guy. I think he'll get along really well at OU.
Any surprise that our man Andy Bass is a Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Oklahoma?
No surprise there. He deserved it. If you haven't seen his stats, I think he put up like 40, nearly 50 touchdowns, like 4,000 yards rushing, 60 touchdowns. Yeah, I was underselling him. Sorry, Andy. He had an amazing year. He deserved Gatorade Player of the Year. I think anyone who saw him play this season can definitely tell you that too, because it wasn't just empty stats. He was incredible.
Averaged 11 yards a carry as a quarterback, and then averaged like 14 yards per completion or per attempt, I think.
He only threw 2 interceptions also?
Yeah, with 34 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Just a ridiculous stat line.
Yeah.
You put him at running back, it's almost a waste.
Yeah.
He is so skilled, so talented, so good at doing so many different things.
Yeah.
They got to find a utility position for him.
There's a reason I said that I thought he would earn snaps as a freshman. Before the knee injury, I definitely thought that even with it, he might still get some snaps on the field as a freshman. But, he's just so versatile. He's so good at so many different things that it's hard to keep a guy like that off the field.
All right, the portal exits are up to 20, Randall. Any surprise there? The last 2 that we haven't talked about on the podcast anyway are Blake Smith, who was here for all of 1 year. He transferred, caught 2 passes, and then tight end, transferred out, or is entering the transfer portal, I should say. And then another one that's a little bit of in big picture, a little bit of a surprise is Day McCulloch, the safety, little brother of Dasan McCulloch. I thought they were going to be here together for a few years because Dasan's just a sophomore. And when Day McCulloch transfers out, you're like, wait a minute, what does this mean for Dasan? Is he going to leave too? You wouldn't think so because he played such a vital role at that Cheetah linebacker. But I think both of those are interesting. I think Blake Smith might have been able to contribute something next year, and I certainly think Dave McCulloch was on his way. At least he got some playing time as a true freshman.
Yeah, so Blake Smith, I think, is one that we've been maybe expecting a little bit more to hop in the portal just after being kind of the backup this year. With Devon Mitchell coming in, with Bauer Sharp coming in, potentially you still looking in the portal for another tight end? I think that Blake Smith probably didn't enter earlier because he wanted to still play in that bowl game, still get a few more plays with his teammates in before entering the portal. But again, seems like maybe a guy that just didn't work out whenever he came from Texas A&M. Didn't end up being a huge part of the offense. It seems like he played a little more earlier in the year than later. And again, with Bauer Sharp coming in, with Cade McIntyre coming back, with potentially Caden Helms coming back, you've got Devon Mitchell coming in as a true freshman. OU's going to have, in theory, some guys who can compete and be really dynamic pass catching and blocking tight ends there. And so maybe the writing was on the wall that Blake Smith wasn't going to get the playing time he wanted next season, or necessarily have the role he wanted next season, if he did get some snaps. And like I said, I do think there's still tight ends in the portal. that OU might go after, specifically Jake Roberts from Baylor. His younger brother is a tight end at Washington High School in Oklahoma.
It's a big
And
one.
yes, you mentioned it, big one. And Jake had a decent year for Baylor. He had some production, so that might be a guy that OU goes after. I think he actually originally played for Seth Luttrell at North Texas
Mhm.
before going to Baylor too. So there's a lot of connection there. That's definitely a name I would watch out for Sooners fans. But yeah, you mentioned Dea McCullough. That one's a lot more interesting. A guy who was much younger, and so it seemed like there was a lot longer in his career that OU had to work with. I don't think that, again, OU fans might be worried about Desan McCullough. From what I've heard, I don't think that Desan McCullough is on his way out. I think that he's happy where he's at. I think he, got a lot of playing time this year. And I think that next year that's going to continue. He was, like you said, he was a pretty good player for the Sooners defense this year. But I just think that maybe with Robert Sears Jennings coming back, with Peyton Bowen, with Billy Bowman coming back, those are three guys that are going to take a lot of reps at safety. Some of the other young guys on this team, Jaden Rose coming back from an injury. So in theory, if he's playing safety, he's a little bit of a bigger player now, might be moving from corner to safety or something like that. Just with the depth in the defensive backfield, it seems like maybe McCullough just wasn't going to get the time on the field this season that he wanted. I don't know that for sure, but that one is a little more puzzling. Again, OU also has 7 defensive backs coming in this recruiting class. A handful of those are safeties with Jaden Hardy, with Michael Patterson McDonald, with Reggie Powers from Ohio. So again, there's a big group of that defensive backfield that might have been part of the reason for McCullough, but I think that as it relates to Desan McCullough, I think that Desan is probably on the roster next year, from what I've heard.
Yeah, me too. If you're having those exit interviews and you're telling Dave McCullough, listen, man, if you want to get on the field next year, you're probably going to have to transfer, but we'd love to have you here for the long term. If you're telling him that and encouraging him to transfer, as these conversations often go, you better check with his big brother first. Hey, if he transfers, are you sticking around? You gotta. These are like parts of the shell game as you
Mm-hmm.
move things around. You need to check with. So
Yeah.
I find that interesting, and I'm sure Brent and Ted Roof and probably Jay Valai and probably Brandon Hall as well. They probably all have great relationships with the parents there, and everybody college football family, right? College football coach. They probably all know the score. So I don't know. We don't want to overreact to guys jumping in the transfer portal, but the number is up to 20 right now. The incoming number is up to 8 after a kicker jumped in today, committed to Oklahoma. Tyler Keltner he's from Tallahassee, went to East Tennessee State, basically started at East Tennessee State for 4 years and then transferred what he thought, I guess, was his final year to Florida State, his hometown school. He didn't kick but one extra point last year. This year for the undefeated Seminoles, right? Going into the bowl season anyway. But that's one, and then the other one that we haven't gotten to here on the podcast, Joselyn Molasa. OK Preps, dude, from Bethany, defensive back. Good player coming out of high school, had some nice offers, went to Utah, Pac-12 two-time champ, right? Utah, and decides he's going to transfer to Oklahoma. So he's committed to Oklahoma as well. So there's a kicker and a safety, or I guess a safety / corner in the transfer portal that have joined just in the past few days.
Yeah, and Molaska is a guy who Brent Venables and company was able to get. I mean, I think both of these guys, but Molaska specifically a guy that Brent Venables was able to get on a preferred walk on. I think that's really a steal for Brent Venables and company because, like you said, this is a guy who had some good offers coming out of high school. While he didn't play much in the defensive backfield at Utah, he did, he did get a lot of playing time on special teams. So you have to think that even if he doesn't, again, come in and play safety right away, he could make an impact on special teams for the Sooners, which is always important. But adding, again, that's another guy that you're adding more depth in that secondary, that defensive backfield, a guy who's from Bethany, so nearby. His brother is a 2026 OU offer, also from Bethany. So I'm sure that probably helps keep a good relationship with Evanson Molasa, the 2026 defensive back from Bethany. But really, it's a good athlete who's probably had some good, not probably, who has had good coaching at Utah. I mean, you know what Utah is able to put out on the field defensively year after year. So a guy who's had good coaching at Utah, who's a decent athlete, who is from the Oklahoma City area. All the dots really add up there if you're Brent Venables and company, especially if you're able to get the guy on a preferred walk-on. And I'm sure that I haven't been told this for sure, but I would be very surprised if there's not some NIL involved, kind of similar to a Bergen Kaiser, Andy Bass situation where while he's not on scholarship, he's not going to be paying to go to OU, something like that. But still, to get him to not use anything towards that scholarship count to get a player of this quality, I think is huge. And I think that really has been a staple of Brent Venables' time at OU. I think you've seen that whether it's Gavin Freeman, whether it's Andy Bass, Bergen Kaiser now, guys out of the transfer portal like Molasa. And I think he's a solid player that even if he doesn't contribute at defensive back this year, maybe could down the line. And again, if nothing else, he'll be a solid special teams player and probably a piece that helps recruit his brother, if nothing else. And sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and the kicker, Keltner, I think that there's no guarantee that he's going to be the starting kicker next year, but I think that you bring him in as to say, we don't want to just hand the job to Liam Evans, who's a true freshman coming in from Moore High School, rated the number 7 kicker by Kohl's Kicking in the country. Now, Liam Evans is a talented guy who will compete for the starting job next year, but I think that's what you brought Keltner in to do, is to push that competition and give you another option that if Liam Evans isn't the answer, if Gavin Marshall, Zach Schmidt, whoever is not the answer, you have a guy that can at least come in there and compete, give you another option, and hopefully raise the bar for all those guys. They say that competition makes everyone better. And so this way you're not handing the job to one guy. It's not a default kicker winning the job. It's, you actually have options, and those guys have to actually earn the job. They have to beat each other out and prove that they're good enough to do it.
Yeah, and here's the thing about kickers. You can be an FCS kicker at East Tennessee State and make 75% of your kicks, including a school record 54-yarder and a 51-yarder and on and on and on. You can do that at East Tennessee State because the only thing you're going against is the ball, right? You see what I'm saying? You're not going against other FCS talent level players. If you're an offensive tackle in the FCS, you're probably not going to see as many good defensive ends as you would in the FBS or the Power 5, right? Kicker's different. Kicker, the only opponent is the same exact size and shape and color as every other kicker in the country, and it's brown and it's oblong and it goes through the uprights. Just kick the ball. You don't got to be an elite kicker. That's why so many elite programs don't have scholarships for kickers, because kickers are, when you never know what you're going to get. I've seen scholarships go out to kickers and they suck, right? We've seen it. And then I've seen kids come out of nowhere and they're awesome. Like the dude for the Cowboys right now wasn't even a football kicker. Soccer player.
Yeah.
There are so many soccer players in this world who could be, and I said this, guys, I said this a long time ago. There are so many Australian rules football players who could be punters in the United States. And look what's happened. It's been a revolution. All these punters in college football and the NFL. I'm saying the same thing about soccer players. If they get tired of playing soccer, running around, getting tackled from behind, whatever, I don't know, go play football. Go kick that thing through the uprights. If you can kick it 50 yards, man, they'll sign you.
Think back to your high school team. Everybody who played high school football, who was the kicker on your high school team? It was a kid who played soccer, wasn't it? At least at my high school,
soccer, yeah.
Yeah, at least at our high school, our kicker, shout out to Manuel Rodriguez, he could hit a 48-yarder when we were in high school. He was a soccer player, and I think that like you said, if you need a guy, go grab someone who's a high school soccer player, or who's playing. If you're a pro team, go grab someone who's playing in the MLS. Say, hey, maybe you run around a little bit less. You can come kick for us.
Yes, stand over here with your helmet and your single face mask ball.
But I do think that obviously kicker was an issue all year for OU, and again, Keltner at least gives you another option. He's a guy who come in and challenge for the job. If he doesn't win it, it'll take at least a good, decent kicker to beat him out for the job.
What is that I hear at the kicker position? Competitive depth?
Yep.
Is that what I'm listening to right now? What? Just saying.
Yep.
Right, the big recruit of the week is a guy who came back, Woody Washington.
Yeah.
You got Billy Bowman coming back. And then a few days later, you got Danny Stutzman coming back. And then a few days later, you got DeJoun Terry and Jacob Lacey coming back. And then a couple of weeks after the bowl game, a couple of weeks later, you got Woody Washington coming back. You talk about now, I don't know if Woody got the grade that he thought he was going to get in when it comes to the NFL draft. But Danny Stutzman's dad told me he got a very favorable grade, and anybody else would have left for the NFL. Billy Bowman, I understand he got a pretty solid grade for the NFL draft, but decided he wanted to come back, play that one more year. Congratulations to Billy Bowman, by the way, for being engaged to Jada Coleman, which is weird. I flew with Jada Coleman on the way back from San Antonio to Dallas. She didn't say anything about getting engaged. Maybe he sprung it on her. Anyway, I digress. Woody Washington is a great get. He didn't have probably the senior year that he would have wanted to. He wasn't like a dominant shutdown corner, but he was OU's most consistent and healthiest corner, and I thought he was the best corner on the team all year long.
Totally, and I think with with the youth that you have behind Woody Washington, it's really good for OU to get him back because you don't want to throw a guy who's never started a game out and play him in the SEC for his first full season as a starter. You want to be able to ease those guys in you want to get them snaps, but you don't want to have to rely on them the entire game, right? And so if you can start Woody and then you can mix in some of those younger guys behind him, that's I think how Brent Venables and company would prefer to do it. They also you have to think about now. They also added Dejon Malone, the transfer from Cincinnati, San Diego State, and so now you've got two veteran corners in Woody Washington and Des Malone. So that's really favorable. And again, you got Gentry Williams coming back. I think that Woody Washington, being the veteran guy, really going to help anchor that defensive backfield. He's a guy who kind of almost like a player coach with how long he's been there, with how much he's soaked in all the coaching and is able to disperse that to the younger guys. It really helps out the coaching staff a lot because it's, the little things that they don't have to teach the younger guys. You can, Woody Washington can pull them aside and say, hey, do this, when you're doing a drill, he can, get everyone lined up, things like that, just the small things. I think it's important for those reasons. And again, having maturity, having a guy who's seen a lot of snaps in college football is going to be crucial as you go into the SEC to play against, some of the, best competition in the country. And again, getting Woody back and Ethan Downs too, huge.
Yeah, Ethan, I never got the sense he wanted to leave or was thinking about leaving. He didn't. Right. I don't think he put anything out there that he was coming back, right? Like a big announcement or anything.
Right.
It's just having him back is huge.
Right. Yeah, just a guy who's been solid for the past, 2 years, and it's going to be a really important player as the Sooners head into the SEC.
He just got 1,000 times more famous too. Did you see what he did?
Yes.
Over the weekend during the halftime of the Texas semifinal game.
I was
there getting his all-state good works team and him and however many 21 other guys, whatever it was. They're out there getting their awards and they're standing there and everybody's cheering for him and he sees all those Texas fans and he goes like this.
In front of
the whole stadium starts booing him. He's up on the big board, the jumbotron. It was hilarious.
I was watching with my dad and I was trying to point it out to him, like, look, and he was like, what? He did not understand why it was so significant. But that was pretty funny, pretty hilarious.
If that's like a Football Writers Association kind of a All-American team, or here's your all-conference team, or your all-graduate team, or your all academic team. No, this is the all-nice guy team. This is the all. Everybody roots for everybody on that field because every one of those dudes is out there doing community service and helping kids and underprivileged and going to church functions. And he's like, I don't care. I'm doing my thing, and he did it. And oh my God, Texas fans just lit him up. But that's what college football. I'm sorry. If you're soft and you're Charmin and you're sensitive about stuff like that, you don't need to be cheering for college football teams anyway. This is college football, and this is what rivals do. They get in each other's grill, and I loved it. I loved it. And if Texas had something that they would do something to Texas A&M or Oklahoma or whoever, then do it. Then and wear it proud. Wear it on your sleeve, man. That's what I love about college football.
That's what makes it so fun. That's what makes us all so passionate about covering this sport. And I think that while Texas fans obviously, it's just going to, it fuels the rivalry. Excuse me. And I think that while Texas fans obviously hated Ethan Downs for it, it further ingrained himself as a legend in OU fans' mind.
Absolutely. If he never plays another down, the fan base is going to love him forever for that.
Absolutely.
So good for him. That's what happens when you grow up in the state of Oklahoma, rooting against Texas, right?
That's right. Weatherford, Oklahoma.
That's right. Good stuff. Hey, man, keep up the good work. We'll follow you for the rest of the time that you get until you get back from San Antonio. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, Hoover.
Hey, thank you all for listening as well. We will be back next week on the AllSooners Podcast, and you can find That one and all of our shows at Apple, Google, Spotify, Podbean, iHeart, or anywhere you listen to your podcast. If you have an Amazon-enabled device, just say, Alexa, play the AllSooners podcast. It's also posted on our website, allsooners.com. Just click on the player and listen on your phone, your tablet, or your computer. And all of our shows are posted on my YouTube channel, John Hoover Media. For Ryan Chapman and Randall Sweet, I am John Hoover. See you guys.